People have the ability to become immune to things, even when it comes to entertainment. Take CGI for example. The first time you saw it, it might have blown your mind, but nowadays you can find it anywhere from TV shows to even low-rent YouTube channels. And it only gets worse as time goes on, because as a new generation grows, never knowing a world without it, then all of a sudden it becomes commonplace and everyone just continues to get numb to it. Sadly, all is true in the world of professional wrestling as well. But that is the topic of this episode, because today, Dave knows 7 things that don't mean what they used to. Alright, I'm gonna try to do my best and not sound like an old fogey throughout this video, but this is an issue that is somewhat important to me. And I totally understand that as wrestling evolves, things become obsolete or things become antiquated and just need to fall by the wayside, and I'm totally okay with that. I'm talking about needlessly upping the ante just for upping the ante's sake, because when you do this, eventually you'll hit the ceiling. And when you do that, you realize you have nowhere else to go but down. And when that day eventually comes, then you'll find that wrestling fans are beginning to lose their interest in the industry. Attendance rates will begin to drop, and wrestlers will constantly be injured because their bodies just can't keep up with the physical demand of constantly trying to one-up each other all the time. Well, on that note, let's get into the list. Number 7, the Superplex. The standing vertical suplex used to be the gold standard of basic fundamental wrestling maneuvers. Coupled with the top rope, and you had a move that was truly unbeatable. Nowadays, not only have I seen wrestlers take the move and then kick out, but I've also seen wrestlers hit the move and not even bother going for the cover, which makes me sad. And as much as I like that multi-man powerbomb superplex combination platter, why doesn't it end matches? After this it should be game over, but instead it's used as the halfway point for a sloppy triple threat match or as the rest cue for a chaotic tag team match. But speaking of having an underwhelming impact, number 6, selling. Salesmanship by far is the underrated bread and butter of any wrestler's arsenal. After the facade of kayfabe has been broken, selling is probably the closest equivalent that wrestling has to defense in comparison to other competitive sports. Because while it takes a good wrestler to execute a plethora of moves, it takes a truly great wrestler to make sure that those moves look believable. And unfortunately, with wrestlers like Ciabatta and the Young Bucks, it seems that no selling is all the rage nowadays. Which is such a shame, because selling is one of the primary things that separates professional wrestling from choreographed dance. Even wrestling legend Stone Cold Steve Austin has mentioned how selling is a lost art form in the modern era. And as for me, I'm not just talking about the wrestlers that don't sell, I'm also talking about the wrestlers that underwhelmingly sell. Lying face down on the mat for an hour really doesn't count as selling to me. I need you to commit to being in pain. I need you to commit to whatever specific move was done to you and not just have a default pose you go into whenever you need a break. Number 5. Schmazes. Now when I say schmaz, I don't just mean everybody storming the ring to interrupt the match. I mean any kind of shenanigans that don't give you a clean finish. Now when I was a kid, a schmaz was a great way to extend the feud, but anybody watching nowadays realizes they really don't need any help extending feuds, now do they? Sasha Banks and Charlotte. Excuse me. Now yes, I understand this is a great way to save face, and they use it a lot of times to make sure that no one's momentum gets halted. However, I don't think it's all that effective, especially when you have an overbloated mid-card section. If you just took a chance and elevated more wrestlers to the main event level, then you wouldn't have to worry about stifling their momentum because they're stuck in the mid-card for years. And the reason why schmazes used to be great is that they weren't just used to prolong things, they were also used as part of a story. When warring factions would interfere, this meant that the feud is going to the next level. If a bad guy cheated to win, this meant that the good guy deserved retribution. Properly used, it's the climax to a story, and not just an excuse to drag things out until the next pay-per-view. Next up, foreign objects. Everything, the ring post, the outside barricade, championship belts, the ring bell, and especially steel chairs. All these and so much more used to mean so much more. One shot with anything metal was an instant game over, and that's the way it's supposed to be. And multiple hits would result in you leaving the arena in an ambulance. I mean, why are people more resilient to it nowadays? Is it the steroids? I mean, the thing is, when all these objects might as well be pillows, then how do you tell a storyline where somebody gets carted off to the hospital? It becomes almost impossible. I mean, what's next? In 10 years, are they gonna start using guns like it's some sort of Elmer Fudd Bugs Bunny cartoon? I'm kidding, don't do that. Do not do that. Although... No, don't do it. No. Number 3, turns. Heel turns, face turns, it doesn't matter. Turns used to be important, and they were a pivotal point in a wrestler's career. Not only was it used as a shot in the arm for an act that has gotten stale, but it was also a very important thing, something that you didn't want to waste the momentum on. Now yes, you obviously gotta bring up the Big Show, but he honestly is the best example of what went wrong with turns. When Hogan turned heel, it was earth-shattering and it was used in the best possible way. A turn should only be used when it's definitely gonna reinvigorate a career, and if there's a whole plan already in mind for it. And back when good guys were good guys and bad guys were bad guys, a proper turn was a great excuse to let a wrestler finally go against members of the other side of the roster. Number 2. The IC title. Now I could easily say mid-card titles in general. Actually, I could just say championships, period. But the IC title, more so than any other championship, used to have the most prestige attached to it. As Stone Cold Steve Austin, the Intercontinental title used to mean something. Now back in the day, the World Heavyweight Champion was a guy that you didn't see all that much. Sure, you would get him at WrestleMania or SummerSlam, but definitely don't expect to see him every week. Now the belt that you would get to see defended on the regular was, of course, the Intercontinental Championship. Because back then, that belt was given to the hardest worker. If you're the WWF Champion, hey, good for you. You're a big money draw and we want to make sure that seeing you and that belt is a special occasion. So, we don't want you getting hurt and we don't want you wrestling too much, so just take it easy and congratulations. However, the hardest worker, the hungriest wrestler, that was the guy that you put the Intercontinental title on because it meant you knew how to work. The belt meant something to wrestlers and it meant something to wrestling fans too. A lot more than it means today. And number 1, I'm gonna finish this list with finishers. People might love it, but I hate people kicking out of finishers. If you ask me, someone should kick out of a finisher maybe once every 10 years, at most. And I know, I've been doing a lot of praising of Stone Cold Steve Austin, but this is one instance where I gotta go against him. Because it seems that Stone Cold Steve Austin and The Rock are the reasons why finishers got ruined for everybody. Because WrestleMania 15, the first time that both wrestlers were gonna kick out of each other's finishers in the main event. It was gonna make history. Now unfortunately, this set an awful precedence. Because just look at The Rock and John Cena, or John Cena and AJ Styles. It seems that a lot of wrestlers now think this is what an entertaining main event should be. And yet again, pure escalation, because if a finisher isn't a finisher anymore, then what's it gonna take to finally close out a match? Well, there you go, there's my list, but I wanna know what you think. Tell me in the comments what used to mean more to you in wrestling, and please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Thanks again for watching, and this has been Dave Knows.